All right, everyone, you asked for it, and we are delivering. Today, we're taking a deep dive into Steve Jobs' 2005 Stanford Commencement address. I mean, this speech is legendary. You've probably heard it, felt its impact, but we're going deeper than just feeling inspired, right? We're going to break down what makes this speech tick.
It's amazing how this speech just sticks with people. Years later, they remember how it made them feel. But if you ask them, what do you actually take away from it? Besides the stay hungry, stay foolish part, it's kind of surprising how many people draw a blank. And that's what we're going to dig into today. How Jobs, maybe without even meaning to, really crafted a message that hits you right in the gut. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you finish listening and you're ready to start a company in your garage, like tomorrow. But then that feeling fades, you're back to your inbox, and it's like, what happened? So where do we even start unpacking this thing?
It's all in the structure, actually, believe it or not. 3 stories. Sounds simple when you just list them out, but each one is like a layer, taking us deeper into how Jobs saw life, work, everything. He's not giving us a to-do list. He's building a whole framework for making decisions based on what he went through.
Okay, so first layer then. Jaws starts with his adoption, right? His birth parents, not college grads, but they made his adoptive parents promise he'd go to college. Talk about setting expectations. But then it gets even more interesting.
Because he drops out of Reed College, 6 months in?
Yeah.
And not because he's slacking or rebelling or something, but this, gut feeling that the normal path wasn't for him. He even says straight up he was scared. But he trusted his gut. Like something else was out there. Right off the bat, Jobs shows us that sometimes the big decisions, the ones that really shake things up, they don't come from logic. They come from somewhere else.
And that leads perfectly into that calligraphy class. In a world obsessed with tech, it seems so random. Jobs even says it himself, it had no hope of any practical application. Who does that?
A visionary, that's who. That story isn't about calligraphy. It's about how we can only connect the dots looking back. Jobs is saying you can't always plan everything out perfectly. You got to trust that somehow things will connect eventually. He even says how important it is to believe in something, whether it's your gut, destiny, karma, whatever. It's not about the what, it's the having something bigger than you to keep you moving.
So anyone listening who's unsure about their job, their major, that hobby they love, that seems pointless. This is for you. You might not be the next Steve Jobs, but he's saying it's okay to trust those useless interests. That calligraphy class wasn't just random. It led to the amazing typography of the first Macs. What useless things are you into that might be the key to your success later on?
And that brings us to what Jobs is really getting at here. Resilience. Trusting your gut even when it's foggy, that's how you get through the rough patches we all hit. And Jobs, he hit one we all know about.
Getting fired from Apple? Yeah, I'd call that a rough patch, for sure. And think about it, to get up on that stage and tell that story, that takes guts. It's one thing to read it, right, in some biography, but to hear him describe how it felt, letting everyone down, he called it dropping the baton.
And that's what makes it so powerful, that vulnerability. Here's Steve Jobs, this icon, Mr. Success, admitting he was crushed, lost. He's showing us that even the most brilliant minds, they screw up, they fall flat, and that's all right.
More than all right. He says getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have happened to him. How many of us can say that about our biggest failures?
Yeah, because it's when you fail, when that pressure is gone, that's when you get the really cool stuff, the innovation. Jobs talks about how the heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. He wasn't afraid to start from scratch, try things out, follow his curiosity.
And then, next T, Pixar. Talk about turning things around. Like he bottled up that energy from getting booted from Apple and poured it into these new things. Sure, NXT didn't take off right away, but it led to him coming back to Apple and, let's face it, changing how tech works.
NXT is like textbook productive failure, not just bouncing back, but using it, learning, coming out even more creative on the other side. How often do we let setbacks stop us instead of making us better? Jobs wants us to see those failures as chances to grow, just like he did.
It's almost like he's saying, go ahead and fail, just don't let that be the end of it. Okay, get ready though, because Jobs' third story, it gets kind of real. He starts talking about getting diagnosed with cancer, and I gotta admit, the first time I heard this part, it hit me hard. It felt, I don't know, heavy, especially after those first 2 stories.
But that's Jobs, right? He doesn't shy away from the big stuff, even if it's uncomfortable. He's using this really tough experience, facing death, to get us motivated. Remember that quote he talks about? The one about living each day like it's your last?
Yeah. If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right. He read that when he was like 17, and it really got to him. He even made it a habit, looking in the mirror and asking himself, if today was the end, would I be cool with what I'm about to do?
And if the answer was no, too many days in a row, he knew something had to change. That's not being morbid. It's powerful stuff. It makes you think about what really matters, cut through the BS.
It's like that diagnosis, as scary as it was, it helped him cut through all the noise, all the expectations, and just focus on what was important. He even chokes up a little on stage. Says, sorry to be so dramatic, but it's quite true. Your time is limited.
Mm.
Anyone else says that, it's kind of cliche. But coming from him, in that moment, you feel it, man. It's a gut punch, but the kind that makes you want to do better. You know what I mean?
Exactly. He's telling us to take action, but disguised as thinking about death. He doesn't want us to dwell on dying, but to use it to figure out what really matters, you know? So think about it. What would you change if today was it? What relationships would you focus on? What dreams would you actually go after? That's a powerful question, even if you're not sick.
Which leads perfectly into those three little words everyone remembers from Steve Jobs. Stay hungry, stay foolish. He
Yeah.
uses that story about the Whole Earth catalog, that counterculture thing from the 60s.
Which, by the way, is Jobs connecting the dots again. He calls it sort of like Google in paperback form 35 years before Google came along.
Sure.
It's like he's saying the best ideas, they often come from weird places, from trying things that are different, new.
And on the back of their last issue, tiny letters, it said, stay hungry, stay foolish. Jobs, he took those words and ran with them. It's like his motto for doing things your own way, being curious and going for it, even if you don't know what's going to happen.
And honestly, that message might matter even more now than back in 2005. We're bombarded with info, opinions, distractions. Staying hungry and staying foolish, it means not following the crowd, but making your own path.
It's about trusting your gut, not being afraid to fail, and never losing that, kid-like excitement to learn new stuff. It's about living a life that's true to you, not what other people expect. Jobs' speech, it wasn't just for grads. It was his legacy, how to live a life with purpose, with meaning. He put those stories together like a masterclass in storytelling, each one building on the last, leaving us feeling hopeful, like anything's possible. So next time you're going about your day, remember those words. Stay hungry, stay foolish. But more importantly, think about which of Jobs' stories really stuck with you. How can you use that in your life? That's the real question, right? So we're all figuring out.